Episode 13, A New Fuel, Petronium 2. In 1877, Maybach moved to Cologne to rest and focused on commercializing the improved engine design, obtaining a patent for the Otto engine in August 1877. This engine by Otto gained immense popularity due to its high efficiency and lower noise. Compared to previous engines, selling over 30,000 units in 10 years, making Otto very wealthy. Otto's engine was a significant advancement over previous inventions, but it did not satisfy Daimler. Daimler believed that further improvements were needed to reduce the engine's size and increase its power, making it suitable for vehicles, ships, and airships. However, Otto's engine was too large and heavy for such applications, had low power output, and relied on city gas as fuel, which was a significant drawback. Daimler and Maybach had already identified these limitations while working on Otto's engine, and had been secretly experimenting with Petronium in their Cannstatt laboratory since 1875. The float carburetor that Maybach developed in 1875 for the Otto engine was merely a byproduct of a carburetor designed to mix and spray petroleum with air. Their research showed that petroleum could be used as fuel, prompting Daimler to approach Otto for further investigation. When Daimler entered Otto's office, Otto, who was coughing severely, smiled upon seeing Daimler and stood up. He warmly welcomed Daimler and invited him to sit down. Otto mentioned that he was pleased with the strong sales of the Otto engine, believing that naming it after himself was a factor in its success. However, he added that he was suffering from a severe cold. Daimler briefly showed a conflicted expression at the mention of the Otto engine, but quickly concealed it and congratulated Otto on his success. He attributed the engine's success to Otto's excellent design, stating that many people were praising it. He advised Otto to take medicine, but Otto dismissed the idea, saying people would laugh at him for taking medication for such a minor cold. Otto, pleased with the positive market response, remarked that although Daimler and Maybach were already wealthy, they should continue working together to create even better engines and earn more money. Daimler responded that they were continuously improving the engine, particularly thanks to Maybach's designs, which significantly reduced breakdowns and noise. Otto praised Maybach's engineering skills, but suspected that Daimler had another reason for visiting him and asked about it. Daimler paused and thought before stating that the Otto engine was ahead of its time, and that future engines would largely follow its basic structure. He noted that while the Otto engine had potential applications in automobiles, ships, and aircraft, its excessive weight and low power output were major drawbacks. Otto asked if Daimler had found a solution, to which Daimler explained that the main issue was the engine's reliance on city gas as fuel. Hearing this, Otto slammed his palm on the table in frustration. He asserted that his current engine was the best gas engine in existence. Daimler calmly reassured Otto and continued his explanation. He stated that because the Otto engine operated on city gas, the fuel supply system inevitably had to be large, which in turn increased the engine's overall size. Additionally, he added that since city gas did not have a strong explosive force, the engine's power output was naturally lower. Otto coughed again and fell into thought before asking Daimler for an alternative solution. Daimler revealed that he and Maybach had discovered a way to use petroleum as fuel to address the issue. Upon hearing this, Otto scoffed and let out a disbelieving chuckle. He considered Daimler's proposal unrealistic, pointing out that petroleum was mainly used as a lubricant or in pharmaceuticals, and that its supply was not as stable as city gas. However, Daimler argued that petroleum had a strong explosive force and could power an engine for a long time with a small amount, thus solving multiple drawbacks of the Otto engine. At once he requested research support. Otto remained skeptical but considered the possibility that it might not just be a mere fantasy. Given that Daimler and Maybach were among the best engineers of their time, in the end, he decided to postpone his decision on petroleum research, stating that he would first conduct his own investigation before making a judgment. Daimler agreed and asked Otto to make a wise decision. Otto then concluded the conversation and asked Daimler to leave. After Daimler left the office, Otto gazed out the window, lost in deep thought. He was convinced that petroleum was not suitable as a fuel, yet he could not entirely dismiss the possibility. At the time, petroleum was rarely used as a fuel. However, Otto felt the need to carefully consider whether Daimler's proposal was mere fantasy or a hint at a new possibility. At that time, petroleum was rarely used as a fuel. Heavy oil and paraffin were mainly used as lubricants in some factories, or as fuel for lamps in households without city gas. And before that, they were even used as medicinal substances. Due to the prevailing circumstances that made petroleum unsuitable as a fuel, Otto dismissed Daimler's idea with indifference. Additionally, Otto harbored a personal rivalry with Daimler and Maybach as their reputation continued to grow. Otto decided that he needed to investigate petroleum further. After finishing work that day, Otto visited a pharmacy near his company due to a severe cold. He approached one of the two pharmacists inside the pharmacy and described his symptoms. The pharmacist asked a few more questions before heading inside to prepare the appropriate medicine. As Otto waited, the door opened, and a middle-aged woman carrying a small basket entered. She approached the other pharmacist, carefully glanced around, and cautiously asked if they had petroleum. The pharmacist replied that they did and handed her a bottle. She paid for it and placed it in her basket. Observing this, Otto approached the woman, politely greeted her, and introduced himself as Otto. The woman responded in kind and exchanged pleasantries with Otto. Otto, curious about the purpose of her purchase, carefully inquired about its use. She nodded and explained that while it was used for lighting in some areas, most households used it to remove stains from fabrics or textiles. She added that her child had recently dirtied some clothes, and since the stains wouldn't come out despite repeated washing, she intended to use petroleum. Otto thanked her for the information, and the woman bid him farewell before leaving the pharmacy. Shortly after, the pharmacist returned with Otto's medicine, and he paid for it before stepping outside. As he exited the pharmacy, Otto pondered the words of the woman he had just spoken to. He concluded that petroleum was merely useful for lighting or stain removal, and was unsuitable as an engine fuel. Furthermore, he worried that if the company supported Daimler's research, new technologies beyond his understanding might emerge, leading him to decide to distance himself from Daimler and Maybach. Meanwhile, after his meeting with Otto, Daimler returned to Maybach. Maybach looked at Daimler with a questioning expression, and Daimler, smiling, relayed Otto's response. Daimler, realizing that Otto was unlikely to approve the petroleum research, added that he had refrained from disclosing how far their research had already progressed. Feeling that it was once again just the two of them, Daimler discussed their future plans with Maybach. Maybach, having somewhat expected this outcome, nodded and advised that they should not sever ties with Otto completely just yet. He emphasized that conducting petroleum research independently would be too burdensome, and that Otto's support was still necessary. Daimler agreed with Maybach's opinion and resolved to continue persuading Otto to secure research funding. Additionally, they concluded that, for the time being, they should continue their research in secret at Deutz, while working on solutions. Maybach promised to continue the petroleum research, and thus, he and Daimler strengthened their resolve. However, their determination would ultimately drive an even greater wedge between them and Otto.